Well, welcome to our education webinar and thanks for joining us today. I'm Sabrina Cook from CSBA. I'm delighted to be here for this event. We've put a lot of work into it. So the purpose of this webinar today is mainly to bring different universities together to share their experiences with the current COVID-19 situation. Today we have two guest speakers, Brent Hartland from the Australian National University, who will be sharing with us his experience in using Zoom meetings to personalize interactions as his team is working remotely from home. And then Peter Hilt from Western Sydney University will share his experience with us as well in managing a customer service team remotely, the impact this has had on the team and how we can replicate the social team aspects in a work from home environment. And it's over to you now, Pierre. Enjoy.
Thanks, Sabrina. And I'm really glad that we're all here today to have this discussion, share our insights and experiences, and come together as a community at this time, which is really a challenging time for everyone. It hasn't been easy. And we know that COVID-19 has meant a sudden move to working from home and also different ways to communicate with our customers and our teams. So before we launch into our first topic, Brent, would you like to introduce yourself and say a bit about what you do?
Sure. So my name's Brent Hartland. I'm the Deputy Manager of the Future Student Experience at ANU. We sit within the marketing division, which might be obvious from my background and my shirt. What I do, so my role is to manage the contact centre. So I look after the ANU Future Student Contact Centre, and I also look after the outbound automated email and SMS campaigns that ANU runs.
Fantastic. So, Brent, I've been hearing how wonderful ANU has, done some good work on transitioning your teams to a remote workplace and work from home, and also some fantastic ways you have been innovating and using technology to reach out to customers and your teams. Would you like to share a little bit about what you've been doing?
Yeah, absolutely. What you've heard has all come from us. So, of course, it's been fantastic work that we've been doing. But what we've essentially done very early on in the COVID environment, I'll call it, we realised that we were going to have to work from home. We weren't going to be able to work from an office. Luckily, earlier in the year, unluckily, we had the bushfire crisis that occurred, and then we had that hailstorm that came through and wiped out nearly 50% of our campus. So we had already trialed some working from home options for our contact centre, and luckily we were able to draw on that experience to get up and running really quickly with our response to not being able to work in the office with the COVID situation. So we knew that we had the ability for Zoom, and that was the platform that was the easiest and quickest for us to get stood up, which we did. Funnily enough, the contact centre was one of the first divisions or departments within the uni that actually went fully working from home, which in previous contact centres that I've worked for would not be the case.
That really sounds fantastic that you could do it very rapidly and you had that experience to do that. What were some challenges that you faced, perhaps? How did that, how did you get your teams to quickly adopt that digital technology, and what helped them adapt?
Yeah, so like I say, we had a head start. Our teams are also a lot of current students, so they're using technology. There's no fear of technology with those students, so they know what to do and how to use it. So the learning and the teaching about the technology and how to use it didn't impact us greatly. Obviously, there was a learning curve, and we had a very good business continuity plan in place, and it had been tested very recently with the bushfires and hail. So we knew that we could rely on that business continuity plan, and it would hold us in good stead to be able to move into the uncertainty that was and still is the current situation.
Absolutely. I might ask the participants if everyone could use the chat box to put in some comments. Let us know what you have been doing in your university. How are you using digital technology? What sorts of digital technology are you using? And if you have any questions of Brent, we can address those as well. Yeah. So if you could just go ahead doing that.
I'm happy. I'll run through a little bit about what solution we've actually come up with.
Yes.
And then as I run through, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer. I'll keep it high level so I don't bore you with the detail. But if you do want some more detail, please ask. So we chose Zoom. I think it's a fairly obvious choice. I don't think there was any real debate about what we were going to do. The biggest issue was that our phone system, we knew. I think it's the same phone system from 1940 when ANU was founded, and it did not support any remote working whatsoever. So we knew we were going to be without phones. That was the only part of our process that was going to be affected, because we could do all of our other activities remotely via the cloud or via obviously email and whatnot. So the first sort of steps that we went through was, how is that going to impact the customer? What is important for the customer? Which ways do they like talking to us? And it was phone was a very important method. So we had to come up with something to replace the phones. So we went with book a call, we've called it, a very original title, which allows students or future students to book a call with anyone within our team. So they get a calendar that pops up, they can click on a time and a date, and then they can book that call. We then obviously call them at that agreed time, and we do it all through Zoom. So we had these wonderful backgrounds made of some of the shots around campus. We're lucky that our campus is quite picturesque, so we can use them, and it hides the bedrooms and the kitchens and the dining room tables and everywhere else that we're currently working from, and that does that quite well. The team, obviously, we're part of the Sense CX through CSBA, so the team tried to then adapt the processes and the concepts that we use throughout our normal phone calls into Zoom. And some of the things we found very quickly were body language, posture, attention to the camera, rather than sort of looking left and right or at the puppy at your feet or whatever else is happening in your home. So that was how we sort of generated what we do.
Really sounds like you worked hard to create a sense of continuity with your teams and with your customers, and adapting SenseX to the Zoom mode to be it's sort of more of a face-to-face interaction. I can see some comments here. People have said that they're using Microsoft Teams, Zoom, WebEx to communicate. Which is fantastic, and I'm sure there are lots of other virtual platforms. Have you used any other virtual platforms other than Zoom at all, Brent?
So we use Teams internally. We don't use it externally. The only external platform that we have used is Zoom. We do all our webinars, all our recruitment webinars and things like that through Zoom as well. So it was a known entity for us. I'm just having a look at some of the questions there.
Yes,
question there around privacy. Which I have a prepared answer for. No, we knew that one was going to come up. ANU actually uses a version of Zoom that's hosted within the ANU. So for us, the privacy concerns of the wider Zoom platform were mitigated. We're not allowed to use Zoom on our mobile phones because that isn't behind the ANU firewall. but our version of Zoom is secure, which is very good. Our current student contact centre did go remote, so there's no one on campus currently at ANU. There's a couple of research projects happening, but no volume of people. So they are working remotely, and they do have the ability, as we do, to do the Zoom calls and communicate with students remotely as well, which is really good. And then out in our colleges or in our faculties, there is that happening as well.
Okay, so moving from phone into Zoom, and Zoom's been sort of empowering everyone to work together and connect. So I've got a question here about, did you need your customers to download a particular version of Zoom since you have your version of Zoom behind a firewall?
No. So the instance of Zoom is hosted by ANU, but they don't have to download anything, so they can still go through the same web site through Zoom. We don't use the web version of Zoom though. We download Zoom on our computer.
Okay, so I think the privacy considerations, and I have a few questions here. So thanks for sharing those tips with us around Zoom and how you built Zoom at the university. And I suppose whoever uses Zoom would probably need, organizations would need to go to their own IT departments to check and build their own security around it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've got a very robust cybersecurity unit. As everyone would know, we've had our issues with privacy and privacy breaches. So that they've been relatively recent, which has again enabled us to use the learnings from that into building what we do currently. I see the question there from David around how often do we meet, and the knowledge gap from just overhearing things amongst the team, which is a great point, really important point. And I know Peter's going to talk later around working from home. It was a really crucial decision that we made around how we keep our team connected. One of the things that happens in our contact center team is they talk a lot. They're all between the ages of 18 to 25. They all Canberra's a small place. They all go to the one nightclub in Canberra on a Friday night. So they're all doing the same things. They interact a lot in the office and outside of the office. We have 2 catch-ups each day. So we have a 9 o'clock and a 1 o'clock catch-up, where anybody within the team can join, whether they're rostered on or not. They can come along and join. They usually go for about 15 to 20 minutes. The first 5 minutes is me boring them with things that I want them to do, and the rest of it is them talking amongst each other, and usually having a pretty good time sharing backgrounds and whatnot. The other thing that we do have is we have a very robust knowledge-based system. So any new information that we learn or come across throughout our day, we add to that, and that gets notified through SharePoint.
Sounds really exciting. Brent, what are some lessons we might take into the future from what's happened now?
Yeah,
with technology. Yeah,
I think the biggest lesson, and I think a lot of people are learning this, is we don't have to be in the office. B, we don't have to wear a suit and tie everywhere we go, which I'm happy about. But yeah, I think there's no reason that when we go back to whatever the new normal is, that we can't still be offering the ability for people to talk face to face with us. I would love to see the volume of normal phone calls compared to video calls when we're back in the real world, and just see whether people do actually prefer talking face to face, and being able to see the person that they're talking to. That'll be a really good experiment that I'll be doing, and checking who likes what. On the volume of inquiries, we've actually seen an increase in inquiries. Some of you may be aware that ANU went out with offering domestic undergrad school leavers a position at ANU based on their Year 11 results. So not only did the team transfer from home, we've seen I've got the number, 53% increase in inquiries. So we've been working from home, going through change, and our inquiry volume skyrocketed due to that announcement. So it's been interesting times.
Fabulous. It seems, you know, technology is a tool that you've used really well, creatively and innovatively, and are getting really good results. And as you mentioned, in future, technology will continue to be part of the offering, and you might, you know, it would be just one more offering that you have, depending on how your customer prefers to engage with you. So whether they prefer Zoom or face-to-face or an email or a phone call, that's going to be fantastic. So thanks, Brent, for sharing your experience and the fantastic work you're doing at ANU. And thanks everybody for sharing as well and asking these great questions. I can see it's time to move to our next topic with Peter. So that leads us nicely into some of the things we've talked about just now, is leading our teams to deliver a really high quality customer service at this time when they're working remotely. So Peter, if you would like to say a few words about yourself, and then share with us some things that you're doing with your teams to keep them motivated and engaged.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Pierre. My name's Peter. I'm the coordinator at the Western Sydney University Contact Service Centre. So my role is more specifically around managing and supporting the team. We service both the prospective student lines, but we also have some other internal stakeholders to do with our Office of Estate and Commercials, so various works that are going on throughout the uni and supporting staff. And also we recently took on the coronavirus support line. And it's actually, I think, quite an interesting distinction between our experience and Brent's experience, because given that we opened a coronavirus support line, and when we took on that role, we weren't able to close phone lines as part of our transition to working from home. So unlike Brent's team, we were one of the last teams to transition, just due to, one, the difficulties our IT team were having allowing our telephony systems to be worked from home. And the solution that they did come up with was we access a VPN that actually dials us into the physical network on campus. And then we're taking phone calls through the stations that we already had set up, but through a soft phone and a wireless connection from home. So a little bit different there. In terms of my presentation today, so we had a lot of difficulties with the transition to working from home. Initially, they were predominantly surrounding tech issues. We didn't get much turnaround or notice to move to online or working from home. And our first week was really just ensuring that all of our staff were able to connect and service our various different channels. This was easier for some channels than others. Obviously, web chat or email was quite accessible from home, but where we found real issues was the differing reliability of staff's connections at home to the internet. And when you're trying to service a phone line, that is really crucial to ensure that that connection's stable. What we also found once we'd really had a settling in our IT issues was that the way we catch up and keep the staff informed had to change quite a lot from what we did before. And Brent mentioned earlier that he does multiple catch-ups with his team. We're somewhat in the same boat. We have an 8:45 morning meeting where we set the agenda for the day and cover all of the relevant changes, which I'm sure, like everyone in this meeting with coronavirus, have been changing on a daily basis. But what we found lacking if we stuck to our MO and just stuck with those morning meetings was that the social interactions and just being in a single office together, staff really missed out on the learnings and just the updates that you get from having an ear to conversations that are taking place around you, and conversations taking place with supervisors as well. So we maintained our morning meeting, introduced a second supervisor catch-up in the afternoon. What continued to be a challenge, though, was that for a lot of our staff, and we are similar to Brent, we hire from a really broad range of study disciplines, and we're all casual students. And it means that we have a really, really diverse range of staff members and how they respond. So staff, particularly that are a bit quieter and more reserved, were hesitant to raise a hand in these online forums where they could get all the information they need just from hearing other conversations in the office. And to facilitate a better accessibility for these students, we introduced an afternoon one-on-one supervisor catch-up, which allowed them to raise any issues they had directly with the supervisor, any confusion, but also just gave them us the opportunity to check in and see how they're coping with working from home. That was a great approach. It lasted for about a week and a half, but we found that the participation from some staff members compared to other staff members varied quite a lot. So these reserved staff members, or perhaps staff members that don't really feel comfortable raising concerns with supervisors directly, were still quite reserved in these one-on-one sessions. And we looked into ways to improve or make a bit more of a comfortable environment for those students or those staff members to approach us or approach their peers with concerns or issues that they've been having. So to replace the afternoon one-on-one catch-up, we created a staff-run catch-up of small groups. So we'd assign what we call the catch-up master to a staff member each morning, and they'd run small sessions with 3 to 4 other staff members after lunch, so from about 2 o'clock onwards. And they really took on a life of their own. So we'd give these rough guidelines of what we want covered or certain updates, but then left it really open to the staff to see how they would like these delivered. And it turned into certain staff members dressing up that are running these sessions, dressing up and having a different wardrobe change for each catch-up session. And also creating SurveyMonkey trivia sessions for the staff to get involved in. And it just reignited a lot of the social interaction that was really lacking after we left the office. And I think that was only possible because we stepped back as the supervising team and said, you have that space. And even today, I couldn't tell you what will be happening in the catch-up sessions, but the only thing I do hear is from all of the staff saying, thank you so much for introducing that, because it's really filled a void of a social void of what they used to get from work. And I'm sure, as Brent mentioned as well, it's a really important thing for our staff, being quite young and casual students, to find a social value in working at the Contact Service Centre. And we see great retention rates of our staff for that reason. And I think this has been a good stopgap in between with our working from home solution.
Yeah, that's wow. Wow, it really is amazing what you've done, Peter, and what your teams are doing. I've seen some, people saying that they love the trivia vibe and creating employee engagement and that social bonding. It's absolutely fantastic. What I'd like everyone out there to put in their chat box are, what are some ideas that you have to increase engagement and social bonding? What might you be doing in this sphere as well? And while you're popping in your insights or your comments, I'm going to ask Peter a few questions that are popping up here as well. So there's one question that has said, did you reduce any of the work shifts for your casuals?
Yeah, so and that's actually been one of the positives with the transition to working from home. We used to have set daily shifts or half daily shifts, and just out of ease of rostering, they were the two types, so a morning shift, PM shift, or a full day shift. What working from home has allowed us to do, and on the student front as well, is to allow people to be available for, say, 2 hours of a morning between classes where they can jump on their laptop from home, given that all their classes are delivered online, and just do a couple of hours work in a shift. And that's been actually a helpful way for them to manage the drain from working from home for an entire day, where instead of having a single shift for a full day a week, they can have multiple shorter shifts. Yeah.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Do you have different people leading that catch up?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a really important part of how they were introduced, that we rotate that leading role in the catch-ups. And I think I also saw that there's a question about the groups and did they change also?
Yeah.
And that was, they also do change day to day, just to ensure that staff members are getting the exposure that they get in the office to all of their teammates.
Fabulous. I mean, that's also part of bonding, isn't it? Creating that team spirit. So you
Certainly.
rotate different groups. You know, I'm seeing here fantastic ideas that people are sharing about Google Doc, you know, with movies and what people are watching. There's someone who says, show us what you've been baking, and furry office buddies. We just had that at CSBA. We had a pet send us images of your pet, and then we ran a competition identifying the pets, and there was a winner. I know some people do have meetings over pizza, so pizza's ordered and sent to everybody, and you know, do things like that. So it seems like we're really building a team community. You know, Louise is saying that there is a section wiki for social sharing, which sounds really fantastic. Sharing funny videos. So yeah, lots of activity happening around there. Peter, I know you were talking about earlier how to keep staff focused. So social bonding is one, and engaging, but motivating them to continue to deliver a consistent level of high quality service. What are some tips you can give us around that?
Yeah, certainly. So it's somewhat similar to the response we had to the social interactions, but where our CSBA would really be led from the bottom by the team. They'd really there was a lot of buy-in between team members, and they'd talk about their CSBA results and how they could improve, and listening, just sitting next to someone and listening to an amazing CSBA phone call or an amazing interaction where you can just tell they're really putting effort in, lifts the effort that I think the wider team participate in as well, or put in as well. What we found, and it was actually quite helpful that we have an external quality assurance program with CSBA in place, is that some team members in the transition to working from home maintain that great standard, and we didn't see any change. But we also saw some other team members really, their results really heavily affected. And it allowed us to really identify that quite quickly and check in with this team, because often what was a big problem for them were perhaps being used to working with two monitors, and the cramped nature of working off a small laptop from home affected their productivity. And for that reason, they felt that they had less time to put in a real attention to detail into their interactions with inquirers, and led to a bit of a drop in the quality of their work. And so we had to respond quite quickly to that in both in staffing levels, but also in managing expectations, because I think it was really clear the expectations that we had in the office, and we had a better grasp of how realistic they were, and that's changed a lot for us moving to working from home. Back to your questions there. Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent, but in terms of maintaining focus, we created new CSBA specifically related channels. So we, like many people I've seen working with Teams as an internal messaging platform, and we we introduced a CSBA channel where both staff could provide input into results that they'd received. We could also call out staff for the great results received, but also just flag helpful updates. We tend to really lack in certain assessment areas of our CX framework, and it's helpful for us to bring those areas, for example, providing a summary at the end of a call, or introducing a personalized moment. It's really helpful for us to be able to flag those from time to time with the team, just to keep it front of mind in their interactions.
Peter, how do you tackle that micro-skilling aspect, the coaching that one would give in the workplace? How do you work with that in a virtual team?
Yeah, so we have maintained our internal QA program that we have always had in place, and that is where, when we stepped away from the supervisor catch-ups, we replaced those with more CSBA, and also just training sessions with the supervising team in both the other queues that we manage and in just our standard CSBA training that we'd usually have on any given week or day while we're in the office. So that's all. We use Teams for all of those interactions, and it's been a great platform. We also have relied really heavily on SharePoint, which is part of the Office suite, which allows us to have pages for specific areas or knowledge bases that we'd like to staff to have access to. And we have a dedicated CSBA SharePoint page, which can lists all of the CSBA criteria. And also we've uploaded some examples of recordings of really good interactions or via phone, email, and web chat for the team to use individually and have access to and learn from.
Great. I've got a question here, Peter. And has anyone noticed any impact on productivity at this time?
Yes, where we've yes, we have. We haven't been able to. We've had to increase staffing to be able to maintain the service that we provided beforehand while we're in the office. Mostly, I think that is directly related to the connectivity issues that certain staff members have, and the issue I mentioned before around the monitors. We, in our call center office, have great setups for the staff where they have 2 large monitors to work from. Where they're working from home, we unfortunately weren't allowed to. We didn't gain approval for those monitors to go home with staff. So most are working off laptops, a small little screen. And if anyone has attempted that transition, it really does have a huge effect on your ability to maybe work on multiple emails at one time and toggle between different resources and that kind of thing.
And I suppose, at this time, it's a lot to do with nurturing and caring and supporting. And so perhaps, the expectations of productivity that we had perhaps, a month ago doesn't necessarily apply to the situations, right now and what's happening. So I absolutely agree. If you've gone from 2 monitors to a little tiny laptop, wow, fantastic work, by the team and Peter, even for keeping them motivated and engaged and even focused to, ensure that they're happy so that they can deliver high quality service to customers. So thanks for sharing those powerful examples and those powerful insights. Are there any strategies that the rest of our participants can share with us, things that perhaps were challenging for you or a big consideration in regards to maintaining quality? So yes, we've got Amy saying that even though she has an additional screen at home, it isn't the same anymore, isn't it? I mean, what's happening? right around us is so challenging in every dimension. We've been working to keep ourselves and our families safe, and there's this sort of cloud around us every time we go out and step out and come back in, and that's always at the back of our mind, even when we're working and communicating with people. And so definitely there is an impact on the way we work and our productivity. Peter, how are you working with your teams to manage vulnerable customers and as well vulnerable team members?
Yeah, and that's definitely worth addressing, that not only are there challenges just in working from home, but also in the nature of the inquiries we're receiving, where our team was typically used to providing people course information or application assistance to someone considering a really exciting part of their life, starting at uni or applying for uni. There is now these interactions are somewhat laced with a lot of uncertainty, and given that we're taking on the coronavirus support inquiries, some really sad stories from our student community who are really struggling in this time. I'm sure most universities have this. We have great counselling services at the university for both staff and students, and we've made it a key point that we cover in each of our morning meetings to make sure that the staff are really aware of the services provided to them. And also, I mentioned managing expectations. It's been something we've said, really driven home to them, that if you are feeling really rattled after a call, or something really stressful has come up due to what the conversation you've had in a call, which is really quite common, that someone's triggered by a past experience or something like that, and need to take the time that they reach out in those scenarios. And if they're not comfortable reaching out to a supervisor, that there are these other services available, or even their peers available, and ensuring that those communication channels are wide open for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of empathy required in these days, as we've mentioned, more than ever, and that care and that we are taking with our teams as well as our customers. So thank you very much. We've got here people saying that are your teams involved in providing information through webinars, like information on courses, or presenting any sorts of webinars?
Yeah, certainly. So we'd luckily trialed some webinar type events late last year. In they were meant to be a slow rollout for late 2020 and beyond, but the change in environment has meant it's been a fast rollout to right now. And we haven't yet hosted our first webinar since then, but we do have some postgraduate course information sessions coming up in early May, and we're currently trialing how they will look, because it's quite challenging to provide a session on a webinar format that involves multiple teams. So we're relied on quite heavily to provide a student experience type presentation, but we're also relying on academic teams to provide insights about specific courses, and also our admissions team to provide insights or present on the application process and how applications are assessed. So we're yet to go ahead with a webinar of that scale in that format, but definitely have some planned. And I know that after that, we're at the moment, Open Day in August is being planned online, which is a huge event, that our really main event or recruitment event of a year, and that's all being transitioned to an online format.
Wow, that sounds fantastic, and really innovative to sort of, perhaps this is something that would carry on in the future?
Certainly, yeah. I think that's where the discussions are leading, and provide actually a wider net for us to capture leads, because it was probably a space that we didn't we didn't inhabit so much until late last year. We just started testing, and we're definitely missing a large part of our audience if we're not there.
And I can see everyone talking about how they are pivoting and adapting and being flexible in times like this. COVID has, in a way, given us this opportunity. While it has thrown up many, many challenges, it looks like all of the universities are using this opportunity to work with their strengths and to develop and innovate for the future, because the future is going to really look completely different, I think, from what we have been used to in the past, or at least a blend of that. And starting the pivot and sharing these ideas have been absolutely fantastic. What I'd like to do as we wrap up is ask everyone to think about what is something they're going to take away from these discussions we've had today. If you could pop that down in the chat box, that would be lovely. And while everyone's sharing, Brent, if you've got any other points to share or talk about, what are the key takeaways from today?
Yeah, I mean, the key takeaways, and we're talking about adapting. It's the very first word that I wrote on my page here when I was preparing for today. I think clear, consistent, and reliable are the three words that we try and run with, and that's clear, consistent, and reliable to our staff, but also clear, consistent, and reliable, obviously, to our customers. And if we're doing that, then we think we're winning.
Great, Peter.
I think one of the biggest learnings that or insights I can provide from our experience would be to embrace a trial and error model. Try and provide as wide a variety of options for, I'm sure, a diverse team that everyone manages. And open a variety of channels for staff to utilize.
Thanks, Peter. Peter, there's a question here from David who says that, incoming calls like the COVID line, which is so fantastic and helpful. How do you handle the drop in the ability to answer calls when everyone's in meetings? Yeah,
certainly. I think particularly what David's referring to there particularly is the catch-ups. So we've added these many layers of new catch-ups throughout our day, which did initially affect how many staff were available to take these calls. And I thought when our first day of implementing that it'd be great to get two somewhat larger groups of catch-ups to get it out of the way and make a larger social event or social interaction possible. And what we do immediately, because we realized how that really did affect the agents we had available to take calls, is make those groups quite small. So the 2 to 3 people per group when they at any one time allowed us to still maintain the service that we usually would in terms of answering calls on time, but also that social interaction.
Great, and everyone's been sharing as well, and I'm seeing here from Elaine that we're all in this together, and she's got some ideas on social bonding, and we've got people who are saying that it's nice to confirm everyone's in the same boat and having similar experiences, creating a sense of solidarity, and they're enjoying maintaining this connection with everyone. Amy is saying that a sense of community with universities, and we're very fortunate to have this amazing culture of support. And Beth is saying that her role is in employee experience, so she's going to be incorporating some of these great engagement ideas as well. And we've got Tash saying creative ways to get staff involved. So we've got some really great key takeaways from today. And I know while we've had to sacrifice in some ways the face-to-face contact. We have so many other options with technology to connect and with leadership to maintain that connection and that feeling of purpose. So thanks everybody for being here, for sharing, for caring, for your insights. And what I'm going to do is hand over to Sabrina to conclude the event.
So thank you so much for the amazing input, Brent and Peter. I thought it was a wonderful, fantastic session. Thanks everyone for joining us as well. You know, all the attendees, all the CSBA staff has been so helpful putting this together. We've done a lot of work, so thank you so much. I hope you all have gained some insights today from the session. For me, the big intake was that basically this situation, despite all the challenges, is actually opening a tremendous amount of potential opportunities for us to look at. So there's a lot to look for, I think. And it's, as we said, and as Pierre mentioned, it's bringing us all together, which is fantastic.
So I'm going to wrap up. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe, stay well, stay strong. And we're definitely going to be doing more of these. Thank you, everybody, for your support. Bye. Bye from CSB and bye, everybody. Brent and Peter, you were fantastic. Thanks.